Hi everyone and welcome back. In today's video, we are going to discuss about one of the very popular and common type of attacks, which is the denial of service and distributed denial of service. Now, one thing that I can say is that in almost any organization that you will be working with, you are definitely going to face these category of attacks. And this is the reason why it is important for us to understand them. Once we understand, then maybe at a later stage, we can also discuss about the potential mitigation related steps that you can take. But today's video is dedicated to understanding these type of attacks. So with this, let's get started. Now, in order to understand denial of service, let's take a very simple analogy. So let's consider that this is a restaurant over here and this is the front door of that restaurant. Now there is one person over here, let's consider him to be an attacker, and he stands at the front door of the restaurant from which people can go inside, and he refuses to move. Now what is the implication of this? Implication is that the genuine customers who might want to visit the restaurant, they'll not be able to enter because this attacker is blocking the front door. So this is referred to as denial of service, where the service is denied to genuine customers. Now, one good thing about denial of service is that if you have a security guard, the security guard can easily identify this one rogue person and he can physically remove them. So it is relatively easier for restaurant to overcome the denial of service. Now let us also understand this from the IT perspective. Note that every system in the world has a maximum capacity. If you try to go above maximum capacity, either the system will slow down or it will crash completely. So in the image over here, you see you have a server and you have multiple set of happy users across the globe. They are visiting the server to open the website and the application. So you have a legitimate traffic, everyone is happy. Now, when we discuss about denial of service attacks, in this case, it tries to overwhelm the system with excessive traffic, making it unavailable to the legitimate users by exhausting its resources. So on the right hand side, you see you have a single attacker over here. This single attacker has launched a massive set of attack on the server. So let's assume that this specific server can handle 1000 requests per second. So the attacker has sent say 2000 requests per second on this specific server. So now what will happen? The server will not be able to handle all of the traffic, and the most important is the traffic that is coming from genuine buyers and the genuine users, those traffic will also be blocked because of this. So this is referred to as denial of service attack. So let's do one thing before we proceed further. Let's have a demo. This will give us better clarity on how it works. Now for today's demo, I have a server where I have Nginx that is running with a very simple website. So you see our Nginx is running. And from a different tab, when you make a curl request to the IP address of the server where our Nginx web server is running, you see you get the basic HTML page. Now if you'll open this in browser, then this HTML will make better sense. So let's add the IP address of the server. I'll press enter. And you see this is how it looks like. It's a very simple page which says welcome to Nginx. Now before we proceed further with understanding the denial of service attack, first, let's see on how fast we get the response. So as soon as I press enter over here, you see we are getting the response. There is no delay at all. Everything is fast. So this is the first aspect where we can consider that it is a legitimate traffic. Now what we are going to do, we are going to simulate a denial of service attack on this specific server where the website is running, and then we'll see the overall response time. Before we do that, one more thing that I just wanted to show you is when we look into the log file, let's say var log nginx, let's look into the log file over here. So this log file basically contains the entries of the request that comes towards the Nginx web server. For example, if I make a curl request over here, you will be able to see the corresponding entry over here. So just keep a note on this access log. So let's quickly do a Control C. And before we go ahead and send some form of a denial of service, let's go ahead and empty the log file to see how many requests are coming to the website in small duration of time. Now what we are going to do, we are going to use a tool called as Siege to send certain level of concurrent requests for certain duration of time to a server which has this IP address 192.168.244.163. This is where our Nginx web server is running and our website is loading. Now before we do that, let's also go ahead and run the tail on the access.log. So basically this file will track the incoming request to your website, primarily to the Nginx server. At this stage, since no one is visiting your website, this is empty. So as soon as you go ahead and run the siege over here, you see it is sending thousands of requests to the website. So here also you will see there are so many requests that are coming to the website, and the aim over here is that it will overload. With so many requests, it will overload your web server and your web server will not be able to serve the genuine traffic. So here also you see continuously it is sending the request. Let's just do a Control C over here. So at this stage, it has given us the basic details. So these are the number of hits, this is the availability and the successful transactions. So now let's do one thing. Let's go ahead and run a cat on access.log and we'll see on how many log entries are there. You see you have around 41,800 entries within just very short duration of time. So this is a classic example of a denial of service attack where a single attacker can send thousands to millions of requests to a single web server, potentially at a moment of time, maybe not after 1 minute, but maybe after 30 minutes it will overload the server and then it will either crash or it will not be able to serve the genuine traffic. This is one approach. Now I wanted to show you one more different approach over here. There are multiple ways in which you can send denial of service attacks. Each has its own set of advantages and disadvantages. Let's discuss about one more. Now before we proceed with the second demo, just keep a note that as part of our first demo, within just few seconds, we had close to around 42,000 requests that were sent to the website. Alright, I'll just quickly empty the access.log file over here. Now the second type of attack is slightly different. It is very effective, but it works on a different pattern. Let us also explore that. Now for our second demo, we are going to use a tool called as hping3 and we are going to flood the IP address 192.168.244.163. Now let me also quickly show you about hping3. Now again, this is not directly part of the exams, but I am just giving an overview on what we are trying to do. So about the hping3, it allows us to send the custom ICMP, UDP or TCP packets to a specific target. Now what we are going to do is, we are going to use a SYN based attack. So if I'll quickly show you over here, since we are using the -s flag, which is this one, so this will set the SYN flag as part of the connection. So here you see we are having a SYN flag over here. Now since we are using the SYN flag over here, it is not going to send thousands of requests as part of the layer 7 to open a website. It is going to establish so many set of connections since a SYN flag is sent as part of TCP and this is going to overload the server. Let's also explore this. Now before we do that, let's quickly look into the load of the server. At this stage you see there is hardly any load. You have 0.7% of CPU and the load average is also very less. Now since there is no request, the load is quite less. Now that we are going to start sending the connections, we'll see the load on the server. So let's go ahead and I'll press enter over here. So our hping is running in the flood mode. Now immediately here you see the percentage of CPU utilization immediately went 90% and it will continue to remain 90 to 100% over here. One of the biggest disadvantage here is that since so much amount of CPU is getting used, the Nginx web server will not be able to serve the genuine customers in a timely fashion. Let's quickly try it out. So earlier we had sent the curl request to this IP address and we saw that the response time was very fast. Let's clear the screen. Let's try and send the request again. You see it is taking time. You see it is not immediate. Let's quickly wait over here. Let's see how much time it takes for the response to come back. Let's look into the CPU utilization. It is now 98% CPU utilization. And this is the reason why genuine customers are not able to connect. So we were not able to get the response, could not connect to the server. Alright, now as soon as I do a Control C over here, you will slowly see that the CPU utilization has decreased from 98% and now it is completely empty. Now if I send a curl request, you see immediately we get the response back. Now one more thing that I wanted to show you is that as part of the second demo that we had, now if we run the cat command on the access log over here and if we see the number of entry over here, you see entry is just 2. So hping is not really sending thousands of requests on the website. it is trying to overload the server. Since SYN packets are getting sent, it is going to overload the server because there will be hundreds of half open based TCP connection and it is going to consume a lot of resources for the server. Great. So I hope these set of demos has allowed you to understand about the denial of service attacks in a better terms. Now we intentionally demonstrated two different type of attacks. The aim was to show that there are multiple ways in which attacker can send denial of service attacks. In our first demo, the tool, it sent thousands of requests to the website that we had. However, the second demo that we had, it was not sending thousands of requests to the website by itself, which is the application layer. But the overall approach for the demo number 2 tool was slightly different, where there were multiple half-open connections and through that the resources of the server were consumed, and due to that the genuine users were not able to open the website. Now that we understand the basics of denial of service attack, let's discuss about its bigger brother, which is distributed denial of service attacks. In the organization that you will be working with, the main concern is going to be the distributed denial of service. This is a big issue for many of the organizations. Let us understand this. Through the diagram, I'm sure you were able to figure out what exactly it would mean, but let's also discuss. Now in the denial of service, there was one person who was standing in the front door. However, in a distributed denial of service attack, we'll consider that there are 500 people who are standing in the front door and they're refusing to move. And all of these 500 people, they are not genuine customers. They do not really want to eat any food in the restaurant. The main aim for them is to block the genuine customers. So they block the actual customers from entering. Now the main problem in such case is that even if you have a security guard, that security guard is completely overwhelmed. He will not be able to overcome this larger type of attack called as distributed denial of service, and you need more set of resources to overcome this. So discussing about it from technical perspective, note that a distributed denial of service, also referred to as DDoS, it is a malicious attempt to disrupt the normal traffic of a targeted server, very similar to the DOS attack, by overwhelming the target with flood of internet traffic. However, there is one difference. Here you have multiple systems. In the denial of service, you have one system and an attacker from a system is sending thousands of requests to the targeted web server. However, in distributed denial of service attacks, you can have thousands of malicious agents with different set of IP addresses, and all of them together, they are sending a huge attack to the web server. Now, it is not necessary that all of the IP address are from same country. Thousands of agents would be divided across the globe, and from all of the agents, you have a huge attack that goes towards the server. Now, due to this kind of an attack where you can have thousands of agents that are sending the attack, it is very difficult for the website or the organization to overcome these set of scenarios unless and until they have set the appropriate mitigation related systems that can prevent the distributed denial of service attacks over here. So let's discuss about few examples over here. So in one of the blog posts associated with Google Cloud, they say that they have managed to block a distributed denial of service attack which peaked at 46 million requests per second. 46 million requests per second is huge, and they were able to mitigate it. Now, a normal website, for example, you have organization, that organization, when the attacker will send 46 million requests, the server will immediately go down and it will not be able to respond back in time. To handle such scale of traffic, you need to have pre-preparation and lot of security related configurations that has to be set beforehand. One more example is related to Cloudflare. This again is massive. If you see, as part of this distributed denial of service attack, the attacker delivered 37.4 terabyte of data in just 45 seconds. So it is equivalent to 10,000 HD movies sent to one victim IP address. So this is really massive. Not only these type of attack will bring the system down, but it is going to tremendously increase the bandwidth cost of the targeted website. And this is a very big risk. And if you see in the description, this is one of the largest DDoS attack ever on record so far. So generally, if you want your organization to be protected against such massive scale of attacks, it will require pre-preparation. Just with the firewall, you will not be able to do that. You will definitely require some set of CDNs. Now let's take few examples. Cloudflare again is a very popular CDN. And when you look into the Cloudflare plans, Irrespective of what plans that you are using, one of the very common things that you will have to check is the DDoS protection. So here you see you have an unmetered DDoS protection that Cloudflare is offering. So in case where attacker is trying to attack your website, but since Cloudflare is sitting in front of your website, Cloudflare will take care of the mitigation aspect. This is one point to note. Along with that, various cloud providers like AWS, they have a dedicated service, for example, AWS Shield, which provides a managed DDoS protection for the organizations. And this again is very useful. Just by yourself, without using these dedicated services, your organization will not be able to handle the scale of traffic. And this is one of the reasons why most of the organizations, let's say medium to large scale, they definitely have some form of DDoS protection service that they make use of. So this is one point that you have to keep a note of. Again, I remember in the organization that I was working with, it was during the afternoon time and suddenly the website became slow. Now all of our teams, which are the security, DevOps and SRE team, we sit together and we were discussing on why the website became slow, and on further analysis we realized that it is going through a distributed denial of service attack. So in such case, there was nothing that we could do. We already had a CDN, we already had a shield, and it was preventing, but still the scale of attack was such that it definitely slowed down the website for some amount of time. Now, one thing that I can say is that many times they do not really have a purpose. For example, you might say that attacker is asking for ransom, give us $10,000 or we are going to attack. We are going to send a DDoS attack to the server. Nothing like that. Because we were part of the security team, we realized it. So there was no email from attacker or something. Simply someone is targeting the company website with a big distributed denial of service. Maybe a competitor has paid someone to do that. But this is one of the very common occurrences that you will see in the organization that you will be working with. So that's the overview about the denial of service and distributed denial of service. I hope this has given you better clarity. And with this, we'll conclude today's video.